Welcome to Brain Vision.
Welcome to this lesson. In this lesson, we'll write a function that would sum the individual that gets in an integer. So let's begin. We are defining the function. Pretty much that's the first thing that we do for defining functions, which takes one parameter, one function argument. So here we would define another variable a, which will convert the integer to a string. Then we define another integer b that checks for the length of the integer now converted to string. This is very important in the way that if you enter something like there's a comment, if you enter something like 100, it would detect it as having a length of 3 in order to know how many times we are removing digits from it. We have 3 digits to add. If another enters, now we have 4 digits, the length of 4, so that we know we are looping through it 4 times in order to remove all the digits and add them, right? Okay, so the next step is to get a temporal holder for the value of n, the integer, and now it's the loop for I in the range. We are starting from 1 to the end of the integer. Okay, so if it's 2, it goes for 1. Now that's very important for the last part. All right, and now we are defining here. We can, before we do this, we can define another integer that is a sum, which will hold the summation of the values. So let's define that. So we have a variable called sums. We initiate it to 0, and now this is what we do with the sums. So sum that is equal to the sums plus the h and 10. So for example, if there's a comment, for example, if I have it will divide it, and the value that would, this one will have 1, so it will add 1 to the 0. Then the next time it will add 0 to the 1. Then the final time it will add 2 to it. So it is gradually taking all of them off. Okay, the next step is h that is equal to the h, then double this means that now what this means is that we have the h and we are dividing it and getting only the integer part. So for example, if If, for example, you have an h which was 25, the next time you divide 25 by 10, you are getting 2 instead of 2.5. Okay, so this make sure that when you divide it by 10, your h becomes 2. So by so doing, you remove the 5 out and you have the 2 there. Okay, because you have already dealt with the 5 with the modules. Okay, so let's go on. And after you're done, there's a last h that is not summed. So we take that one after we are done with all of them. This one that is left, there's always the last h because the sum comes before the removing. So sums plus h, and this is to do with the last one. After that, we return the sums. Okay, so this is what we have. Now let's write the main method to do with calling this method and also requesting for user input. So the main function main, it takes no parameter. Here we have n that is equal to an input. So what goes into the input, you simply tell the user whatever they would need to enter. So for example, enter the integer. But one thing is that whatever they enter into the console becomes a string. So for example, instead of having 1, 2, 3 as the input integer, it will become a string which you cannot perform some kind of computation of it. So what we do is that we convert the string to an integer, so that the 1, 2, 3 that the enter becomes 1, 2, 3, an integer that you can add and subtract, perform divisions and all kind. So after getting the integer we are looking for, we would call the method that is the sum that gets to deal with that. So we'll print sum that gets, and we pass in the n. All right, so this will return whatever the sum of the individual digits are. And here we call the main method in order to do the printing of, in order to request for user input, then print in the addition of the individual values. Right, so thanks for your time. This is the end of the lesson.